It's your boy HD. Everybody get up on the dance floor and go, and go, and go crazy. And go crazy. And go crazy. And go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. All the way from the LA. Go crazy like a dum-dum. Eastside homeboy, where I come from. Dance on the floor till you go numb. No fighting, no hating, no red rum. This is O City. All the way to the bay, hit the bass, feel me. Catch a case cause it's beating up yo Chevy. Get you moving side to side, getting all sweaty. Make you work it out. Turn the volume up loud. This a draw crowd, make it all shout. Go, 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 go crazy. All the way from the O to LA. Hit play on the track and I'm ready. Like a quarterback, Tom Brady. Catch it all in the frenzy. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. All the way from the O to LA. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. Go, 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 go crazy. All the way from the O to LA. Go, go, go crazy. Go, go, go crazy. Go, go, go crazy. All the way from the O to LA. Go, go, go crazy. Go, go, go crazy. Go, go, go crazy. All the way from the O to
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, Scoop Nation? It is 8:03 on the cusp of 8:04. So it is officially time to go ahead and get this party started on this fine Tuesday evening. We are so thankful that you have decided to slide on in, click on in, and join the conversation. We have got a packed show, a jam-packed show. A show that I'm excited about for many, many reasons. Mainly just one reason. 2 reasons, but I'm super excited. But yeah, it's going to be a really good show. So I'm super glad that you decided to drop on in tonight. If you are new here to the crew, to the show, to the fam, I want to make sure you know how to stay locked in so you never, ever, ever miss a show. Because, you know, you can catch us on replay. We don't live and go away. Like, you can catch the replay. And to do that, you can make sure that you are following us on all of the socials, which are YouTube at The Scoop Show. You can follow us on Facebook at Real Scoop Show and on Instagram at Scoop Radio Show. Okay, so make sure you lock in, hit the likes, hit the thumbs, do the bells, all the whistles, do the things so that you can never miss a show. Okay. Aside from that, we want you to go ahead and hit that share button. If you are enjoying the show, make sure that you hit that share button and let all of your family and friends know. We want them to join in on the conversation. They don't have time right now. That's okay. Send them that link, honey. Tell them, gone, you missed the conversation. They need to hear your voice. You need to know what was said. You need to get this tea, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and give them that link and make sure that they tune in and get locked in with the Scoop. Okay? And then last thing, I know I've given you a lot. I ask a lot of you, but it's only because I don't want you to miss nothing that we got going on. Okay. We want to know where you are watching from. So if you would please hit that comment section. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Okay. What city you repping? Area. Don't do area codes because then I got to Google. Just tell us the city and state. Okay. let's just keep it all the way. Just give us shout out the full city and state. Let us know where you're repping from because we want to know. Okay. I think that's it. The last and final thing is enjoy the show. Okay. Make sure that you are tapping in, hitting us with those comments, enjoying yourself. Okay. Vibe with us for the one time. Bro, how are you? How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I can't, no complaints. I'm glad to be here. Glad for tonight's show. Yeah. Yeah. really good topics tonight that we're
Yeah.
gonna get into. So I'm very interested in what everybody has to say and what everybody's thinking. So yeah. What's up, Mike? LA. What's up, Callie?
Hey, Mike.
So yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How about you? How are you doing?
I am good. Finally rested from last week. Y'all, my baby graduated Saturday. I have a high school graduate. Okay. My oldest, my only boy graduated. So congrats to Mr. Adrian Savon Willis, who walked across that stage on Saturday evening. And it was amazing. Y'all, I didn't cry. Can you imagine that? It went so fast and we were yelling and hooping and hollering and enjoying the moment like it was so much going on. I did not cry. Now, the week before that, at their baccalaureate, y'all, I was a blubbering mess. And that, like, baccalaureate, you don't even cry, but it was the speech that got me. Saturday, I was cool. I kept it cute on Saturday and just, had all the, that's my baby. So congrats to my son and all of the Middale graduates, all of the graduates. There were caps and gowns all up and down my timeline, from the high school babies, from the pre-K babies to the grown folks. Y'all done hit them stages, and we are proud of you. The Scoop is proud of you. So I'm doing real good. All this successful energy around. I'm here for it. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, sis. Much appreciated, honey.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, he did it well too. So definitely shout out
my boy,
you and James, for good young man too.
Thank you.
That's a solid young man.
We like him a little bit. He can stay.
Yeah, right. Ready to fight somebody about things.
Honey. Yes. Yep. I don't even know no more word. Yep. Right before the show, I was talking about
it. Be somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we got a good show for y'all tonight. So I guess we go ahead and kick it off, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're tonight, of course, we've got a special, one of the things that we've got a special discussion tonight. We're going to have, usually you guys know, every fourth Tuesday, we give you Black History Facts with Jamaica B. Lewis. Tonight, we're going to be having a discussion with her. So we're excited about this. We're going to be talking about, she just was telling me about this presentation that she's doing. Y'all hire her. If you want something like some history, some Black history, like, y'all see what she does every month. But after y'all see this, y'all gonna see why we know she is the truth on anything in this area. So y'all hire her, like pay her, and run me my 10% as her manager too.
Listen, this is for the people. Imagine if you attach some coins to that effort. Attach some coins to that effort.
Yeah, y'all ain't gotta give me 10%. She will, as a love offering to.
I wasn't worried about you. I was talking about sis. Ain't nobody worried about you in that.
You're not. That's why I was just saying, as we hire her, let's think we gotta help the church. I told y'all this pastor thing don't work out. It's gonna be me and fans only.
It's only fair. You ain't boy.
Me and only fans only, whatever it's called.
You on there? You in there? Whatever you call it.
So y'all hired me so I cannot be on OnlyFans. Anyway, so we can have a discussion tonight about the relationship between blacks and Asians, and I probably said it wrong. Should fix it. But anyway, nonetheless, our favorite historian who y'all need to hire is Jamaica B. Lewis. And again, we're going to be talking tonight. So y'all make sure y'all talk to us, give us your comments, your thoughts. Hello.
Hey y'all.
What's going on?
I'm loving this. I'm loving this hair. I'm loving this hair, but I'm loving this hair. Yes,
thank you. A little razzle dazzle, a little something.
A little something. Yes.
How are y'all?
Good. Doing good.
We are good. Glad that you're here tonight. Glad for this conversation. So I'm excited to hear where we're going with this. I'm ready to learn.
Yep. Look, I done got comfortable, put my foot all up in the chair. Let's teach the people, sis. Let's teach the people.
I'm gonna try. I'm definitely gonna try. So yeah, I was telling Winfred that I did a presentation for this global company, and they brought me in to talk about the history between Black Americans and Asian Americans in this country in light of everything that's been happening with Stop AAPI Hate and Black Lives Matter, and how those organizations, intertwine, and how our histories intertwine. And it was actually a really good presentation. Well, of course, I think it was a good presentation because I did it. But and I'm very modest, right? But it was interesting because I saw a lot on, at least on my timeline, which is majority Black Americans, who did not change their profile pictures or their profile frames to Stop AAPI Hate. And people were asking questions like, why should I care? They haven't shown up for us, so on and so forth. And so this company kind of recognized the things that have been going on social media and brought me in to talk about the history, our histories, how our histories are intertwined. And our histories are, intertwined in this country. And so I was telling Winfred about it, and he suggested that I come on tonight to talk about what those histories are, and what are some of the barriers to our communities actually coming together, because there are some barriers and there are some actual justifiable reasons why the Black community and Asian American community just tend to not jive very well. So normally I would just sit here and spat out facts, but I think tonight Winfred wanted more kind of a back and forth discussion. So if y'all don't mind, I can kind of start from the beginning, of course, with history. That's my thing. That's my jam. So, I mean, this is going to be some history that a lot of people don't know about. We don't really learn Asian American history in school. Even in college, I didn't really learn a whole lot. And so researching about this topic over the past couple of years has been pretty exciting. There were some elements of Black history and Asian American history coming together that I knew about. But I mean, I'm going to start from the 1800s on up. So starting there, I'm going to set the stage. Of course, it's 1800s in this land we call America. Of course, people of African descent are in enslavement. They are going through unspeakable horrors. Around the same time, Chinese people started, or people of Chinese descent started immigrating to the United States, or what was known as the United States at the time, or the areas. They came for lots of reasons. They came for the California Gold Rush. They actually came to work on railroads. They came for better opportunities. And so although there were some people of Asian descent already here, there were bigger numbers of immigration, especially from China and areas where Korea is today, and then areas where India is. And so it's mid 1800s, getting to be late 1800s. Black people are finally emancipated. We get what they call freedom. Of course, as we know, we weren't free. And once our ancestors started leaving plantations, white plantation owners started recruiting Chinese immigrants to replace Black slave labor. So what do you do? What happened? What were the results of this? Number one, you had an influx of Chinese Americans or Chinese immigrants who were working right alongside Black Americans at the time. This especially happened, like I said before, along the railroads, in the deep, deep, deep South. And I mean, when I say worked alongside each other, I mean worked right alongside each other, lived alongside each other. And of course, whoever you live with, who you work with, what's going to happen? You go intermingle.
Yep.
And intermingle they did. They got married. And they produced lots of children. Yeah. And when I tell people that, they're like, in the South? And I'm like, yeah, in the South. And I'm talking Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. These places had high numbers of interracial marriages between people of Asian descent and Black Americans. And these people, of course, had families, had children, and these children were raised in environments where they had to experience double the racism. It was one of those, well, when people narrow their eyes and they're like, what are you? Like, I know you're something. It's not all the way Black. It's not all the way Asian, but you're something. So, of course, these children experienced horrific amounts of racism, because of the love from their parents. So, as I tell people all the time, you can't marry away, have sex away, or booty call away, or intermingle away racism and white supremacy. It's always going to be there. And that definitely was the case still when it came to Asians and Black Americans in this country. So even though our ancestors were dating and marrying and having families and having children and all of that, that still did not take away the racism and white supremacy that they faced. So as we're moving along through Reconstruction, we're coming into the 1900s, the government is like, hey, there's way too many of you foreigners in here. We're going to put a little stop to this. They couldn't stop Black Americans from being here, right? Because we're here. But they started passing different series of acts and bills that stopped, especially Chinese people from entering into the country. So the most famous or well-known of those acts was the Chinese Exclusion Act. And under that act, Chinese people who were in the United States could not leave and come back. So if they left, they had to stay away. And also people who were in China who wanted to immigrate to the United States could not come in. And if that wasn't the icing on top of the white supremacy cake, the Chinese people who had immigrated here, who had spouses back in China, were no longer allowed to be legally married to those spouses. Right. I'm seeing eyebrows.
Wow.
Right.
So I can't bring my family here. I can't go back there without staying and leaving the life that I've built here. But you don't want me cohabitating and procreating with the people that are here either.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Because that was going to be my first question when you started back in the 1800s, when you said they immigrated here. And I was like, okay, so this is real immigration, like the kind that was allowed and, was open, and the one that they say they want everyone to have. And then we brought to this point of history, and I'm like, okay, there we go. That's what I remember. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Crazy.
It was getting a little too ethnic for the U.S. government's liking. Okay. And so they passed, and it was a series of these kinds of bills that really put a halt to immigration of people from Asian descent, especially Chinese and Koreans.
Okay.
So as we're trying to work through the 1900s, and so many things happen in Asian American history too. We're talking Japanese internment, where Japanese Americans and Japanese people were literally placed in internment camps, taken away from their businesses, their homes, their schools, places of worship. It was forced detainment. What a lot of people don't know is during those years of internment, Black people were sending care packages to the internment camps for Japanese people.
It was their loved ones.
If anyone could understand, we could understand. So we did, we showed up in a way that we knew how, or in a way that we were allowed to. And that was by sending care packages, sending food packages, clothing, things like that to individuals who were interned. And so, of course, after that ended, Japanese Americans were kind of allowed back, not really back to where their neighborhoods were, but they were allowed to come back into society and kind of establish themselves. So at this point, we're in the 1940s, 1950s, bordering on the 1960s. And we know what was popping in the 1960s, of course, the Black Civil Rights Movement.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where stuff gets real and stuff gets really interesting. So around the time that the Civil Rights Movement had really amped up and was really just, I don't want to say at its height or at its peak, because I feel like we've never hit a peak when it comes to civil rights. Mm-hmm. But when it was very active, mid to late 80s, we had Asian Americans who were involved in the civil rights movement with us. There's documented Asian members of the Black Panther Party out of Oakland. There's documented Asian Americans who had their own organizations that worked right alongside Black Americans when it came to the struggle for civil rights. So we had, of course, our civil rights movement. They had what was called yellow peril. And yellow peril was a term coined by white people who felt like too many Asian Americans being allowed into the country would create all kinds of danger for white people. And I'm going to back up a little bit. So also during internment and all of that, you had different wars happening. You had the American-Philippines War. You had the Korean War. You had all these the Vietnam War. So, of course, American households are being just overrun with ads and propaganda, depicting Asian people certain kinds of way.
Yeah.
Right along with them having the same kind of propaganda depicting Black people a certain way. Mm-hmm. So Black people at the time were absorbing all these lies about Asian people. They can't be trusted. They're money hungry. They're out to steal your businesses. And also Asian Americans are watching TV and they're getting those, well, Black people are lazy. They're criminals. They don't work. They just want handouts. So you have all this white supremacist propaganda against both groups, and both groups are absorbing the foolishness about other groups. Mm-hmm. So while there was that solidarity in the late 60s, early 70s, it kind of started fading away. This was also around the time when places like San Francisco and LA started really, they were already segregated, but people of Asian American descent, especially Koreans, started opening their own businesses. So they were opening grocery stores and liquor stores and beauty shops. Yeah. And places like that. Whereas Black Americans could not get the same kinds of resources. And of course, I don't want our viewers to think of this as like a resource grab, like, oh, they were getting everything and we weren't. They, of course, were dealing with their own racism too, as they're opening these businesses. But the problem was that they were opening these businesses in Black communities, and Black people were saying, well, we're trying to open businesses too. How come we're not getting the capital that you're giving them? Mm-hmm. One of those reasons, yes, question.
No, go. You're probably about to answer what my question is.
One of those reasons was that our government was intentionally upholding, especially Korean Americans, as the model minority. Mm-hmm. The model minority myth and the model minority theory has done, I would say, the most damage to solidarity between Asian Americans and Black Americans. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the model minority myth, and this was said by like President Reagan. I mean, this was stuff that was promoted by government officials. So they're saying, we're going to use Koreans, especially, we're going to use them as an example of what you Black people could be. but you can't be that. You won't be that because you don't work hard like them. You don't gain education like them. You don't have a family structure like them. You know, all your parents are all all on crack. You all are crack babies. Look at the Koreans. Look at the Vietnamese. They're running businesses. They're having families. Why can't you do that? And thus that really, really, really increased tensions between Black Americans and Asian Americans. Another thing that people just kind of don't want to mention or say is that a lot of Asian Americans who immigrated, whether it's from India, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Korea, when they came here to do what they were doing back home. So they were immigrating here as doctors, as lawyers, as musicians, as all these kinds of professionals. But when they got here, white supremacy did not allow them to pursue those same careers. And so they were forced into being grocery store owners and, you know, salon owners and things like that. And of course, they could only set these businesses up in Black communities because that's where they could afford to.
So my question was, and now it's kind of transformed a little bit, with the model minority ideal, and the propaganda that they were pushing into the neighborhoods. The fact, have you found that the reason that they were granted these loans and resources and specifically allowed to put them in, because we talk about redlining and all of that, you know, they put us where they wanted us. So like when they realized there was solidarity, okay, fine, we're going to choose the ones we want to uplift, give them the resources and sit them smack dab in the middle of those that we're denying resources and see what happens. That's essentially what this sounds like. And then like just shake it all up and see what happens.
The power keg, yes.
Right. And when I did this presentation before, someone asked that similar question. And my co-presenter, who was Chinese American, she and I, we disagreed on that. To her, she felt like it wasn't necessarily done intentionally. And she didn't feel like it was done intentionally. My perspective, I told her, can you understand how we can disagree that it may not have been done intentionally? Because that's really what it looks like. If you
put all the factors in place, like when you align all of the things that happen.
Right. And you're denying, like if you can look at records and look at history and see we were denied business loans. We were denied home loans, or, you know, or we were only allowed to live in certain areas. And I'm not saying that we opened businesses at a lower rate. What I'm saying is that our businesses, number one, we weren't given the same amount of capital, and we didn't have the same amount of capital. We also weren't encouraged to keep those businesses going. So we could open a beauty shop in January, but through whether it's property taxes, whether it's business taxes, whether it's whatever else, fees, so on and so forth, we weren't really allowed on a large scale to keep those businesses going. Whereas members of the Asian American community kind of were. And like I said, she and I disagreed on that. Yeah. And that's fine. You know, we have different perspectives on that. At this point, we're in the mid 80s, right? We're coming up on the 90s. And, you know, Asian American businesses are in Black communities. At this point, it's nail salons, it's beauty salons, it's beauty supply stores, it's grocery stores, it's liquor stores, convenience stores, all that stuff. And this isn't anything new to us. Like any of us who have been either lived or been to Black neighborhoods, you go to the corner store, how often did you see that it was owned by a Black person?
Never.
It was
currently.
Never.
Currently in 2021.
Rarely.
When we go to a corner store or a liquor store or somewhere like that in our community, how many of those businesses are owned by Black people?
Very rarely.
Am I speaking like falsehoods? Am I wrong?
Very,
Nope.
very
Nope.
rarely.
Oh, okay. So at this point, we're in the early 90s, right? Stuff is going down in LA. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody knows about Rodney King, right? And the protests and the riots and everything that happened as a result of Rodney King. What people tend to forget is about the young girl, Latasha Harlins, who was killed 2 weeks before Rodney King. She was a Black girl in LA. She went to a convenience store to get a bottle of orange juice, and she grabs the juice, and the store was owned by an Asian American woman. So she grabs the juice, puts it in her backpack. She's walking to the counter to pay, and the woman accuses her of stealing. Latasha's like, we now this. It's 15-year-old Black girl in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, the murder of Latasha Harlins is on video. Do not watch the video because it's horrific. She's of course mouthing off, I'm not stealing, blah, blah, blah. They get into a scuffle. The woman hits her first. Latasha hits back and walks away. Woman, as Latasha turns around and is walking to the door, the woman shoots her in the back of the head, kills her instantly. This baby died with the $2 that she was about to use to pay for this orange juice still in her hand. Okay. So, of course, the Asian American woman is arrested, goes to trial. She gets no time. She gets 400 hours of community service.
Really?
She gets probation. Okay. No jail time. The judge could have sentenced her to 16 years in prison, but instead, the judge gives no time. Of course, things blow up. So there were protests happening because of what happened to this baby. 2 weeks later is when the Rodney King mess happened. So at that point, LA is a tinderbox, right? It's a tinderbox between Black Americans and Asian Americans, and stuff is popping off.
Yep.
That whole solidarity thing, people are like, what solidarity? Where?
Yeah.
If this is what you're choosing to do with to us, then we're not going to stand for this, so on and so forth. So stuff is popping off in LA, and people don't, or a lot of people don't understand that the existence of Black Americans and Asian Americans in this country both are filled with oppression. Both are filled with systemic racism, but our experiences are quite different. And that brings us to where we are currently. And while I was doing this presentation, someone asked, well, what are the barriers? Why didn't Black Lives Matter include not just Black lives? And my response was, we've always been taught that we have to include everyone. But when it's time for us, when we're asking for help and solidarity, we don't get that same response.
Yep.
And quite frankly, that's been kind of the history. That's been what's been happening with Black Lives Matter. If you see video of riots and of rallies and protests, I'm not even gonna call them riots. If you see video of protests and rallies, how often do you see? And we can't always eyeball people by their ethnicity, of course. But by and large, you did not see a whole lot of Asian Americans communities coming out en masse to Black Lives Matter protests. And I'm reading the comments, and Shanae is right. And I'm going to mention that because I don't know if everybody can see the comments. When we're talking about the LA riots and protests, There were Asian and Asian American shop owners who were on top of their buildings, getting ready to snipe protesters who were coming into their shops. And she's right. That definitely did happen. But when we kind of talk about that in current terms, when it was time for buildings to close and people, boarding up their windows and all that, Asian American shop owners were right there too, boarding up their stuff. And I get it, and I understand, because you're a business owner, you want to protect what's yours. But after you're boarding up your stuff, you're going home. And it doesn't matter that these events are happening where you have businesses.
Yep. In your neighborhoods. Yep.
Where
you honestly spend more of your time than you do at the home that you leave here and go to, because this is your business.
Right. Or you have businesses in Black communities, you don't sponsor not one football team, not one basketball team. You're not buying uniforms for one cheerleading squad. You're not doing any of that in this community where you're happily taking our dollars.
Yep. What did your co-presenter say to that? What was her? Was there a counter response to that?
She didn't disagree. She didn't disagree. And so towards the end, the questions were being asked, what is it that we can do as Black Americans and as Asian Americans? What is the key to solidarity? And I was tasked with answering that question. The first thing I said was that both communities have to understand that equality is not pie. Yeah. There's not finite amounts of equality. So when we make a gain, it can be counted as a gain for other ethnicities. When they make gains, it could be counted as gains for other ethnicities. I especially saw this mentioned when the hate crimes, there was a hate crimes bill specifically against AAPI individuals that was passed on a national level. Whereas we're still waiting for the anti-lynching law. If we want to go there, we're still waiting really for the full-on instatement of the Voting Rights Act. Let's just be real.
Absolutely.
And we've been waiting for that since 1965, 68, 63. Been waiting for that. So there are all these measures that we've had at the national level that we're still waiting on getting passed. And yet AAPI legislation can just go through without a hitch. Now, the observation or making that observation is in no way slighting our AAPI brothers and sisters at all. It is calling out the hypocrisy of white supremacy and of our government when it comes to anti-Black legislation, or when it comes to Black legislation that progresses our people.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Winfrey, go ahead.
No, I said absolutely.
So what can we do? Number one, not view equality as if it's a finite thing, as if, if AAPI individuals get it, we don't. If we get it, they don't. If our Latinx brothers and sisters get it, we don't. That's not how equality works. The second thing we can do for solidarity is to just show up, be present, be authentic, and make sure that you're centering the impacted party. So if you are Asian American, Hispanic American, whatever dash American, or even immigrants who may not have full-on citizenship, whatever you identify as ethnically, if you come to a Black Lives Matter protest, you need to center the needs and wants and desires and goals of Black people. If I were to go to an AAPI anti-hate protest, I need to center the wants, needs, desires, and goals of our AAPI brothers and sisters. The issues that we're having is because we have not shown up for each other in a large group and in a large way. When all the Stop AAPI things started happening on social media, I can't remember who it was. Someone published an article or a tweet and that said, okay, Black America, where are you? We need you to show up. And Black America was like,
we talked about it on here. We talked about it on the scoop.
Black America was like, where have you been? Like,
we out here. Yeah.
Like, or why are we always called upon to make gains for everybody else, and we're still struggling to make gains for ourselves?
Because they know we identify and we're the pros at this.
And it's not that we are being selfish in that way, but it's almost like, how can I bend down and tie your shoe and I'm tripping over my own shoelaces?
I'm tired. What you talking about? I'm tired.
Yep.
And what we're asking is, hey, while you see my shoelaces are untied, come help me tie mine. And then I can help you tie yours. And then together we can walk together without tripping over ourselves and each other and get these goals done.
Yep.
So in conclusion of my spiel, before I take questions, there is still a whole lot of work that can be done. I admittedly did not change my profile frame or any of that to stop AAPI hate. It wasn't for a cosmetic reason, and it definitely wasn't because I don't empathize with that movement. I absolutely do. One of my best friends, and I hate to pull that card, but one of my best friends in Denver is a Vietnamese woman, and she has experienced just a ridiculous amount of hatred. And that is my friend. And just as she showed up for me when it came to Black Lives Matter, because she did, I felt like me showing up for her was much more important than me changing my profile frame.
Yeah.
Because to me, she knew where my heart was, and she knows where my heart is. Sometimes the profile frames and all that can bring awareness for sure, but sometimes people can use that as a cop out to not actually perform outside of social media. And that's, and let me say, because I don't want it to come off as ableist, because activism comes in so many different ways. For me, I felt like changing my profile frame would have just been performative and not transformative. And I wanted to show up in ways that would actually help transform. So what I do is I share AAPI healing circles. I share AAPI support resources to those in my circle who identify as such. I try to make sure that I'm a listening ear, because the things that they're dealing with are things that we have dealt with and are things that we can relate to. And I think that we have to understand that I'm not going to say that we're more alike than we are different, because that's not true. But what I will say is that our differences should not be what wedge us. Our differences should be celebrated. Yeah. And I think that one of the biggest hurdles to Black and Asian American solidarity is not only white supremacy, but that there are people who believe that their proximity to whiteness is going to get them further.
Yeah. And Asian community.
And yes. And proximity to whiteness tends to mean stepping on the necks of Black people. Whether or not we want to realize it, there is a racial hierarchy in this country that white supremacy sincerely believes in. And white supremacy puts us at the very bottom of that list. And it's awful. It's an awful thing. The proximity to whiteness thing doesn't just happen in Asian cultures. It happens in Latinx cultures. It happens in Hispanic cultures. It happens around the world. If there's one thing that the earth can agree on, it's anti-Blackness. If there's nothing else that makes this world come together, it's anti-Blackness. And when people or when cultures believe that the worse they treat Black people, that they're going to be viewed better by white people, what they aren't understanding is that there's no amount of assimilation that's going to make you equal to a white person.
Ever.
None.
When it
It
comes
just makes you a bigger piece in the puzzle to play against the Black people.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be other. Always. There's always going to be something about you that makes you not a white, male, cisgender, heterosexual Christian person.
That's kind of what makes it interesting to me that you're a co-presenter.
Evangelical. Let's say evangelical.
Yeah.
Thank you, evangelical.
I'm gonna say I think that what's crazy is, and just for the record, they will let you know that the moment you think you are one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly.
Mm-hmm. That was what I thought was interesting about your co-presenter saying that she did not think that that was strategic on behalf of the government. It was what we were going through was still rough, but it just worked out. It kind of gives a shoulder shrug to the whole thing. Like, it kind of, and even though she might not, not at all knowing this person or anything, but it just speaks to how the propaganda works, how that being proximal to whiteness. Oh, they've allowed us. They said it's okay. We got approval. We were allowed in. We were the only ones. There was something about, what I mean? So that acceptance allowed even generations later to feel as though, no, it wasn't as bad as what you guys got. There's got to be something else that could have been the reason why. It couldn't have been that we were being played too. That's how that reads to someone looking at, like I said, when you look at their timeline and all of those things that happened that led up into the point where they were granting loans for them to open businesses in our neighborhoods, to deny the fact that that was not strategic just more so proves your point that it's working. It has worked to the point we're on a panel discussing how we can become more together, and we're still somehow finding a way to defend the difference.
And I wasn't offended that she didn't necessarily see it that way, because her experiences in this country are different than mine.
Right.
And her lens is different than mine.
Yeah.
So I'm able to disagree with a co-presenter and still respect her experiences. She still brought a lot of knowledge to the table. And that was just one thing that we disagreed on, and that's fine. Like,
right. No, I was just calling out that
you're going
that
to
highlight about that specific point of the proximity, how it plays a point. You can even be in the best of places and have the best intentions, you know what I mean, and have a very unique experience. But like, that's not even trying to say anything about take anything away. That's just is what it is. Like, that is just right. That is what it is. There's no other way. That's not an emotional response. That is just
absolutely
the reality of what it is. It works, right. And
I see Mike commented, he's saying we consistently see the power and strength of United Black Front, but don't utilize it as it should be. I think that there are barriers to us utilizing it as it should be. I think that we are only given so much power. We're only given so much autonomy. We're only given so much opportunity to present these fronts, and then to get shut down. We saw that with Dr. King. We saw that with Malcolm X. We saw that with everyone who was killed, with that movement. We see it with the infighting amongst Black activists. And it's like, and that's all by design.
Rosewood, Charlotte, right. Chicago. Yeah. It's that's the history.
Yeah. It is.
Anywhere energy becomes palpable, we got to get rid of it.
Yeah. Right.
Freedmen's Bureau. This is
right. We of course we have that power. But at some measure, we are only allowed to exercise it so much. And then it's like, hey, you're doing a bit much. Like, let's bring the National Guard. That's enough. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you want to be out here another week protesting? No, time to go home.
Yeah.
Major
point.
Right.
Nothing's changed, but we got it. Like
exactly. And so that's why I choose to advocate and be an activist through education, because you can't tell me, and you're not going to tell me what knowledge that I can and cannot pass on.
Yeah.
And that knowledge that I'm passing on is going to live on and on and on. That's not something you can stop.
Didn't they just pass a law in Texas saying that teachers couldn't teach racism or something like that?
Yes.
That's here too.
And that's a whole other thing. But
like that to me is like the same thing. That's another part of
it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you tell people they can't teach critical race theory or anything that sounds like talking about the actual history of Black suppression in this country, then there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they can't tell me that I can't teach critical race theory. In fact, I've been asked to create a course around critical race theory in the library world. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, I'll be somebody's a professor.
Hire her and send my 10%. Anyway.
Yeah, but I'm reading what Mike is saying.
So he must still support nail shops because those I don't see those. We don't.
No, they're up here.
They're on. We still support nail shops and hair shops, despite Black nail shops being open in the same area, weaponize $1. I agree.
I don't see them.
I agree. My nail tech is Vietnamese, but I go to her because she's my friend and she does good work. Mm-hmm. So.
Being in that specific industry, it's almost as though this particular conversation gets watered down because there are so many different layers to this particular industry. So like we use the nail shops and beauty salon, those types of things. Now the beauty supply thing is that is a totally different. It gets all lumped into beauty, but that is a different ball game.
It's madness.
Than nail shops and the industry, because those are services that are being done. And yes, there are Black nail techs, there are Black shops, there are things like this. But like Jamaica said, you have to also align, and this is not y'all do not pick apart what I'm getting ready to say. You have to align services desired with services rendered and be comparable in all of those things when you're coming from a customer's perspective. We get on a lot of soapboxes and get real political with our coins, but then we also have to think about we're those same people who fuss when our services aren't right, when we don't get the expectation that we're after. So, I encourage us when we have these conversations, especially about these particular ethnicities, to really educate ourselves and then broaden this conversation a little bit more so than just go to a Black nail tech. It's so much bigger, so much deeper.
Really
There's so much more to this than just go to the Black people. You know what I mean? Like,
it is.
We can support more than just every 2 weeks when we get our fill in. Like that's not the root of this issue. So sorry y'all, we dipped into my water, so I had to go ahead and give us a life vest real quick, because this specifically gets so muddy, and it is because we don't know. You have to know this one to get into that one.
Yeah, and it's and if we're going to be frank and honest, we are pushed out and kept out of a lot of those industries intentionally. It's it's so much more than that. Yes, my nail tech is Vietnamese, but please believe I got Black owned everything up in this house, whether it's art, whether it's some shea. Whether it's some shirts, whether it's whatever, if it's my money mentor guidebook, my PDF, whatever, it is Black owned. Don't think just because I go to an Asian American shop to get my nails done that we don't shop Black owned. And it is bigger than that, and it has to do with where we choose to spend our dollar, how we choose to circulate it. But if I'm paying for a quality service, I don't care who does it for this.
One where it's good. Yep.
As long as it's good. But I just think that there's room for growth, both in our community and in the Asian American community. And we just have to acknowledge that when I'm saying Asian American, I can't blanket every ethnicity. I mean, there are how many, hundreds of countries that are considered Asian. Of course, every experience is different. But I really believe that if we want to show up and really sincerely be not allies, because allyship to me is played out now. I don't need an ally, I need an accomplice. I need somebody right there with me. I need somebody right there with me who's going to take the heat with me, who's going to take the fall with me. If we're going to really show up and be accomplices for each other, we have to make sure we're doing it in the way that the other community is asking for. And that tends to be where allyship and accompliship goes wrong. But I think that we can learn a lot from each other. Do I think we'll ever get to a kumbaya kind of solidarity? Of course not. But I do think there is room for growth. And I think that there is power in our communities unifying. And I wish that we could get to the point where we understand that it's not us versus each other. It's us versus white supremacy. And I think if we really understood that and really absorbed that, we would make so much more progress.
Yep. And that does not exclude, I'm glad you said it specifically, white supremacy, because that leaves room for everyone. You can't identify, that is the room for anti-racism in general, right? White supremacy equates to the racism side. So if you can't be like, oh, it's not white people. That's not what she said. That's not at all what was said. White supremacy is the issue. Now, if you happen to be a white person and you have a problem with white supremacy, then come on in. It's essentially what is being said. So that's, and I think that's very important. And I love that you said, I know that we're getting ready to wrap this, and this has been a great conversation, but I love that you said allyship is over and it's now time for accomplices. We've been having a conversation like this in the corporate space here recently, and I was actually one of the ones that had to say that, like, allies don't know what to do until those that they are allying with give them direction to move. And a lot of the times, by the time those directions come down to the allies, it's too late. We need everybody in the room moving on one accord, taking those actions, making the plans. Let's get it moving together. Accomplishing it together is the only way it's going to happen, because there's never going to be an understanding. That whole equality doesn't have pieces of the pie, all of that. You cannot accomplish that understanding, even segmenting the conversation, until everyone gets in the room and puts it all out on the table. There's no way that can be understood, because everyone feels that there's something being kept from them. I didn't hear that. Well, is that really what it is? There's so much distrust between us. We all got to get in there, put up the same skin in the game, have the same end game. I love that.
Yep, absolutely. And we gotta let allyship go. It was nice while it lasted, but it's time for something else. That it's time for that next step, which is being my accomplice. Allies need their hands held. Accomplices have already done the research and they're ready to do the work. Yeah. And I can't hold your hand.
We're working.
I'm gonna leave you inside the curb because I got stuff to do. Yeah. And I've said that in the allyship course that I taught. I ain't got time to hold your hand, hon. We got stuff to do. Yeah. So I welcome my AAPI brothers and sisters over into the Black liberation movement. And if we really intend on showing up for this community, then we need to educate ourselves and ask the right questions before we just jump in and act.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Good stuff. Hire her.
Wyes.
Where can people find you who want to hire you?
Huh? I couldn't hear you.
The people who want to hire you, where can they find you?
Oh, they can message me here, or they can email me at J as in jump, B as in boy, Lewis, Lewis 5 gmail.com. There is a difference if you're hiring me or booking me as a representative of where I currently work or as me. Those are different things. So for this,
Hiring you.
you're hiring me as me.
You.
Correct.
You.
That's
And
right.
Tell them what courses you offer.
For me. Please feel free to inquire through my email or through my Facebook inbox.
From everything from comic book culture to coming across that water. She got you.
I do a lot.
She's got you.
It's a lot. I'll be speaking this week to a group of master's degree students in library science talking about barriers to equity, diversity, and inclusion in the library field. I'm going to try to behave. So we'll see. But I'm also doing Juneteenth presentations too. So feel free to book me for those. That's coming up next month.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate you. Y'all hire
Thanks,
her.
y'all.
As always, we get a lot of great information, things to think about, and solid facts. Ain't a whole lot of just talking from the side of her neck. This is facts. So we appreciate you, Jamaica, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, y'all.
All righty. That's good.
Good stuff. Good combo.
That's real good. I don't know what. Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, because we were just a few weeks ago. We were talking about that. Just a few weeks ago, we were talking about that.
Yep. Of course.
I almost don't want to get into the next. We were
here. Do this real quick then. Talk. Give us your ad.
Oh, okay. So, I don't have the other image for this, but this past week, we're going to talk about Sexy Shay. Is that the one you're popping up? I should have sent you Cameron too, but I think we're good. So I'm going to chat about Sexy Shea Butter really quickly because it's awesome. And this product has actually been changing lives. The Sexy Shea Butter is the Elegance by Design flagship. Your face is cracking me up. Flagship product. It is our original product and the one that consistently shows up and shows out in my line. Sexy Shea Butter is whipped and fluffy and light and amazing, and it is completely all natural. There are no additives, there's no silicones, none of those parabens, none of that bad stuff that you find, a lot of that fluff and filler that you find in a lot of lotions and creams. Sexy Shea Butter does not have that. It is, like I said, it is whipped, it is light, it is fluffy, it literally melts in your hands. While it is doing that, Sexy Shea Butter is transforming and healing your skin. If you have something, if you have issues as extreme as eczema, as all the way to just dryness where you work, say you're a nurse and you're having to wash your hands a whole bunch of times and you need something that's going to moisturize, seal, and lock in that moisture so that you feel like, you know, you still have skin and not sandpaper. Sexy Shea Butter is the thing that you need in your life. This product works literally head to toe. You can use it to moisturize your scalp. You can be bald. You can be fully froed out. You can have locks, all of those things. This product is not heavy. It is not thick. This is not beauty supply butter, y'all. This stuff is literally going to melt into your skin, your scalp, wherever. And it's going to stay there to the point where it is going to nourish, replenish. You are going to notice a difference in how your hair and skin respond after continual use. So please check it out. Go and slide over to elegancebydesign.com and get you some. And I'm going to send you a brand new pic because I'm like 2 logos later from this image. Right. I do not know why we still have this image that's showing up here. That is not what your sexy Shea is going to look like when you get it.
It does not.
But please visit elegancebydesign.com to go ahead and get you some. It is what you need in your life. And we are actually pushing out some new scents. Back to My Roots got Enchanted Dreams, I think is what I called it, on last week. And it smells amazing. Lakeitha kept taking the top off of it. So I'm excited to share that with you all here very soon. So yeah, that's that. Yes, Shanae. It's healed my daughter's eczema. It's the best product I've ever purchased. The Quench Hydration Shampoo and Conditioner are so good too. Yes, ma'am. Telling y'all, head to toe, hair and skincare. That's where it's at.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Shanae, by the way. Appreciate you, babe.
Here, while we waiting, let's want to answer this one.
Okay. Pop me up. What we got?
Let's start. We started it. We'll start this conversation and then we'll so I asked the question, I want to say last week. Somebody else started this question, asking lady we asked lady, what is the brokest, and then we asked what's the wealthiest thing that a man has ever done for you. And then we asked the fellas the same questions. What's the wealthiest and what's the brokest thing that a woman has done for you? Which caused me to ask the question, are our relationships, would we consider our relationships wealthy or broke? Some of the comments that we got in these questions were scary. Downright scary. Like, I've never had a woman do anything for me. One person said, I'm glad that you said that wealth and poor doesn't have to be financial, because otherwise I would say that a man has never done anything. And I'm thinking, first of all, how are we defining this? And then second, what kind of relationships are we allowing or getting into, or what are we doing in relationships that we are, where we don't leave people, at least if that we are leaving people feeling better, wealthy. I'll say that, because to me, even my relationships that didn't work, for the most of them, not all, not all, but most of them, I can say I'm a better man because I dated her. I'm a better man because I was friends with him. I'm a better man because I have a relationship with them. And I'm so concerned that we're getting about what we're doing if the overall thesis or the overall response is my relationships have made me poor, not more wealthy. That threw me.
Yeah.
That threw me.
It was interesting, but I can't say I was surprised. Those responses are evident in a majority of the conversations that we have. It's always interesting to me how rarely does anyone want to own that they were the one on the bad side of a thing. However, everyone has a bad side to share. So so when we start to ask these real questions where it's, hey, tell me about a time. Tell me about a time when, when we really get to have those conversations, you know what? Oh boy, or oh girl did da 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 da, and then we start to read and we, okay, well then that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like our pain shows up in different ways. Our experiences show up in different ways, and depending upon how we frame the questions, we get to see some different things. You know what I mean? We get to see how it presents in different ways. We have been through some stuff. We collectively have been through some stuff, and a lot of stuff we do not know how to really grapple with. We have this constant back and forth of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what's the threshold of dealing versus I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, so throughout our lives, like, how could you know? How could you possibly know how to navigate this thing if at any point in time you checked in with anybody outside of your house? Like when you really, really think about it and all the information that we're given, I'm not surprised.
So I would, to your question, I would say I can agree with that, except I would at least say, like, as you progress through different relationships, there should be some learning that you can grab from it that says, you know what I mean, like that this made me better. Like I've had some relationships that weren't, you know, like super, but because I and maybe some of it's because of the way I choose to frame it. Like to me, the purpose of the relation, I'm supposed to get something from this relationship. So if it's just
That depends on how you identify better. How do you define better? If after this person hurt me or after this thing didn't work out the way I wanted to, you are a positive seeking person. You
Absolutely.
are going to look for the positive in that and try to reform to make it better. So at this point, you're asking yourself a deeper question than what do you get from this relationship? You're asking a person, what do they get from experiences that do not work in my favor? That's something that you can apply to not only your relationships, but every experience that you have. If this person is not going to even take the time to be accountable and say, you know what, this sucked. I can see where this thing did this thing did that. But at the end of it, I came out for the good because this experience taught me something. If after you've gone through something that sucked, and the only thing that you took from that is, I ain't never gonna be with this. I ain't never gonna allow a chick to ever get in like that again and do me like that. You haven't really learned from it. You haven't really processed anything to take anything from that.
Yeah, but I think that response is a normal response to a relation, and a normal initial response to a relationship that does not work. Because I absolutely think like that at times. But then you have to take that step back and say, okay, but wait. Like you said, okay, what was like, I didn't just spend this last year, 2 years, 10 years for nothing. There was something, even if I got to dig for it, that I'm going to find in this from this relationship that made me, that improved me, that helped me, that, you know, that I stopped doing because, or I started doing because. And I think, yeah, it does take someone who's looking for it, but I think it also takes someone who is specifically saying, like specifically ends or leaves a relationship saying that, listen, at the end of the day, I personally don't believe that there is a such thing as wasted time.
Right.
And so if I don't believe there's such a thing as wasted time, then yes, I am going to have to find something. And yes, you are right, Shanae. There are 5 stages of grief. And some people do get in the cycle of anger. But if a person gets stuck in the cycle of anger, then to your point, at that point, now this person really will never really be able to fully get into another healthy, any kind of relationship, because they're always going to be carrying the baggage, the wound, the scars of what happened.
Yeah. Our value systems are different based on our experiences and our willingness to really grow. A lot of us, and I've had to check myself in this as well, you know what I mean? And I know a lot of us in our circle have really had to kind of redefine what growth really is. Sometimes moving to a different place doesn't mean you've grown. You have to really adjust the mindset that you take into this new space. And I think sometimes just because you accept that this thing is over and things didn't go the way that I wanted it to, that can't be the end of the processing. And just because a certain X amount of time passes does not equate, oh, now I'm ready for the next thing. That's where I think why I think it's so hard for us to identify, when you take money out of it, the wealth versus, you know, the real, the asset value of the relationship, you know what I mean? Like, or of what you bring to the relationship. That whole what do you bring to the table conversation is so much more than what you check on a list of on your resume. So like when we go through these things, where we stop in that process and how we show up in the next stage really matters. I can't see wealth in a situation where I feel like I started out at a deficit. You know what I mean? Or when you really look at your balance, like if you don't have nothing when you came into it and then you didn't gain anything when you were done, you're not going to look at it from the fact that I might have been in a negative when I came into this thing. You know what I mean? You're only looking that nobody added to me when I got here. So at the end of it, nobody's at it. I'm broke. Ain't nobody trying to fill me up. You know what I mean? So it becomes a consistent pattern of.
You said if I'm already on the negative when I come into this,
yeah,
and it doesn't work out, and it doesn't work out,
yep.
then I feel like no one's added to.
I'm still more frustrated. Like it's even harder to find value in a situation where you didn't have anything to offer in the first place. So like if your last 5 relationships, you went into it knowing you didn't have nothing to give from the last time.
Okay.
You stopped your process before you were ready to get into it the next time. Yeah, you're consistently saying, yeah, everybody's doing me wrong. Well, you hadn't done you right before you went into it. So at the end of it, yeah, you feel like it just gets worse and worse and worse because you didn't have enough to lose.
And you didn't have anything.
You didn't start,
There was no personal investment in this in the first place.
But no one wants to say that they're negative. No one wants to own that they're negative before they go. Everybody wants to say that they're good.
And I'm healed. I'm healed. No, you're lonely.
You're bored, ma'am. You're bored.
You want sex. You want sex. You're tired of sleeping alone. Let's just say what it is.
Yeah. And that's you don't want to say no, you can't go because you don't have a +1 no more. You want to go. You want to go, baby. And I understand.
I'm gonna say this that if that is the space that you are in, and this is for, let me say this, then I'll back it up. If this is a space that you are in, then the best thing you could do is sit your behind down.
Yep.
Like because relationships don't work if you ain't got nothing to invest. If you don't have, it's almost like if you don't have any skin in the game, you really don't. You don't.
You're just willy-nilly reckless, just doing all kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah, I was having a conversation today with somebody. They were talking about their interactions with somebody, and I said the reason you can talk to this person the way that you talk to them, and not talk to somebody else that same way, is because to this person you are okay with losing them. But with this person, you know that if you talk the way you will lose them. So because you're afraid that your recklessness is going to cause a loss of this relationship, you don't have any problem being reckless with that. There's no one, you haven't invested anything. So to you, it's whatever happens, happens. But over here, now all of a sudden you can't do that because you know that there's an investment. And if I lose this investment,
I'm gonna feel that.
I'm gonna feel this.
Yep.
And that is all. And so if you don't have it, you need that into your relationships. You need to have something that says some skin in this game if you're going to put in the level of work that's necessary to feel like you are adding value, making a person wealthier, and the other person's doing the same to you. Because right now, as we've said several times, we're just at a stalemate of I'm poor, you poor. And so since I'm poor, I'm not going to do nothing. You just going to have to make me rich. And when you make me rich, make me feel wealthy, then I might give you something.
I'll think about it.
Then I might give, because you have to earn this. And we dress it up real nice with stuff like, I'm the table. I don't need no help.
I'm the table.
I'm the table. What you mean bring something to the table? I am the table. Shut up. That is so stupid.
I'm the table.
I think that is so stupid for anybody to say, man, you're a table? I'm the table. I bring that to the.
That's ish single people say.
No, you're not. You're not a table. You're not a table, just like you're not a Jeep. You know, it's like some of our analogies are weird, but then anyway. But I can say, and I say that as someone who's had to do that, who's had to sit down for years and say, I'm not going to date until I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Even though I want company, even though I don't like going, like you said, going to the movies by myself, I'm going to spend these however long, I think it was 2 years, 2 years not dating till I can get healthy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now you don't make, and it allows you the space to then do what you need to do to make yourself healthy, make yourself whole. Make yourself somebody who can be a partner instead of somebody who's a liability in a relationship. Because here's the other thing now, talk Jesus. If you do come to the, if a wealthy person comes to a relationship, into relationship with a poor person, the only thing that's happening is that wealthy person is going to become poor. You will suck the life. You will suck the resource out of that person because they will spend their capital trying to heal you and make you better. And all you're doing is sucking the life out of them.
Yep. And that, and some people would say that and would look at that and be like, no, that's harsh. But that's
the reality.
Philanthropy works for physical coins. Philanthropy is not possible when it comes to emotions. Philanthropy don't equate to the feels, because that is a reciprocal thing that has to happen, period. You can only give so much of your emotional energy without getting anything back before you are just done. Then you become spiteful. Lord likes a cheerful giver.
Listen,
if you at the end of the day cannot cheerfully give that energy to your person, knowing full well that you are going to be a-okay if you never see that thing back, you don't need to be giving that energy. That is something you need to be keeping to yourself.
But think about this, Q. Philanthropy is from the stuff that I don't need.
Yes.
Philanthropy,
the overflow.
It's I'm trying to avoid paying so much taxes. So let me get this away. Or I have so much, I have an overabundance of money, of resources, of land. So let me give this little part of what I already have, and it still leaves me plenty.
My savings is secure.
I'm good. I'm good. Everything I need to live for the rest of my life. Bill Gates gave his ex-wife that money. Like, how you him and Jeff Bezos? How you get your Jeff Bezos give her half his money and still the richest man in the world? Like,
thank you for coming out. God bless you.
My man, they writing checks like I'm spending $20 bills, and that's overflow. But we trying to be philanthropic with the part that we need to pay our damn rent.
Right.
The month, we got to go find find something to fill us up.
Yeah. But we want to be noble in our and I think we have to start. I think that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier today. As far as we don't allow people to just choose what it is that they want. Like, it's okay to save yourself. Who are you proving it to at the end of the day? Who are you really proving it to? Save yourself, because at the end, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't provide. You ended up negative, then y'all just gonna be what? Paying overdraft for who? Who pays the overdraft?
It's come out your next check.
On your heart. Like, who pays the overdraft on your soul, on your energy, on your you? It doesn't work that way. And we all talk about money. We could talk about money. We all identify with money and how it connected, all that. Like, I think this is one of the realest connections to how we love, because like we've started to use people as busy work. You know what I mean? Like fun money, and it's okay. It's all right. I got nothing. Okay, they'll be all right. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like
the discretionary income.
Yeah, like people aren't petty cash. That's what it feels like. We done put people in the petty cash bracket, and it's like, and then we wonder why nobody wants to. Like, no. If you petty cash a person to it too many times, that person ain't gonna be worth 2 pennies when you finally move them to the big drawer. When you deposit them into an account, then people ain't gonna be worth nothing because you done petty cashed them to death, and that's crazy.
Absolutely.
We can't be that selfish.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and talk about your boy real quick. You want to watch this video? Let's transition. This is a good transition to your boy.
Is it?
He's your boy. He's your boy.
He is not my boy. But first of all, he is not my boy. Press play. I'm mad you even left us off right there. Go ahead.
He's your boy today.
It's not my boy.
Let's say all right. All right, y'all, take a look at this video. We're gonna talk about it.
So
What's your disagreement?
my disagreement is just basically about the fact that Black women
shouldn't have to feel obligated to smile to Black men. We're holding a lot of trauma. We're holding a lot of problems,
How old are
mental
you?
health issues.
Hold on. How old are you?
24.
I'm gonna say this one more time. I need you to pay attention. I need all Black women to pay attention. The world does not owe you understanding or me understanding. If you have all this trauma, go seek professional help, because the rest of us do not have to suffer you.
Okay, it's easy to tell Black women and Black people
Do you not
in the Black
whose-
community
no,
to get help,
Whose responsibility is it to get the help they need?
but it's not available readily to our
That
community
is
that easily.
bullshit.
With the wealth gap growing, how many people
Whose
can afford?
responsibility is it to get the mental health they need? Who?
It is ultimately the responsibility of us to get the mental health that we need. But I'm
You
letting
mean-
you know
you mean the
that we are
person
very
being the-
underserved.
You can't make this stuff up. So you say we're underserved. You got to tell me that the therapists that already exist are overloaded. We don't go get help, ma'am. You just had a therapist on here before. I talked to psychiatrists, and first of all, understand who you're talking to. I know hundreds of, anyway. What do Black people tend to deal with? How do Black women tend to deal with their mental health issues? With a licensed clinician or with Jesus?
That is what's pushed to us since
No,
from the age that we are little.
No, ma'am.
That's something we grow
I
up with.
asked who. Let's see. I asked who they see. We're not gonna play. I'm not gonna play the lily pad game. Did they go to a clinician or did they go to the church?
The church most often.
All right, and these are educated. Most of these women are educated, and they've heard about therapy. They make the choice not to go. No different than, I'm gonna switch it up. No different than women understand and hear that being 200 pounds and 5 foot tall is unhealthy. But yet 80% of our women are overweight, and 80% of that is obese. They know the truth. They choose
And
to
the
do
narrative-
something else.
The narrative pushed to us most often is that a guy wants a woman with a big ass. He wants, a thick lady.
Accountability.
We always
Accountability is kryptonite to modern women. Ma'am, you say the traumas. If I accept them, then you got to do something about them. Because what about the traumas that the Black man has to deal with? But we still have to get out here and be functioning people in society, contributing. You don't get to walk around and say, have a special victim status.
I'm not saying we should have a special victim status, but our circumstance is different. We are women.
We are
less
you're 24 years old. Is your circumstance harder or easier than your grandmother and your great grandmother?
Exponentially easier. We have access to information we didn't have.
Exponentially easier, but you're handling it worse. Your grandmother and your great grandmother actually could work with a Black man with more trauma.
Because they understood that the Black woman and the Black man are on the same side. Now that we are all free and independent and we could do whatever we want to, why would we seek to, be one with the Black man? We think that being...
Thank you. Clip it, slice it, put it on World Star. She said it, not me. Now that you're independent, you don't need to be with. There you go. There you go. And there you go, Black man. There it is. She's finally got one to say it.
Build businesses with us.
Your grandmothers and your great grandmothers had more trauma and more stress and did it better. They have exponentially less and they're handling it worse. But it's because they're free and can do what the hell they want to. They'll need to be with you. So you don't need to feel any guilt for taking care of you. For putting yourself first and making your passion, your purpose, your priority. You don't need to feel guilty because this 24-year-old woman just said it. They don't feel any guilt about it. Thank you. So don't ask black men to care about your traumas when you can't even smile at us.
Guess I'm addicted to the good.
So before we even get into this, I've been wondering the whole time this has been up where people were getting a smile from. Because surprisingly, I actually did watch the video this time. So I watched it. But when we got to the whole, okay, put it on World Star, she said it, yada, 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 yada. That's when I was hovering over my stop button. So I honestly missed the y'all can't even smile at us part. Are you kidding me right now? That's why we can't quite get with him. That is why right there, when you just add them little digs in, we can't even, what the hell does a smile have to do with anything? And all of what you just talked about. Anyway, focusing back, because that is not the root of my actual thoughts on this video. Y'all know I don't like him, but I honestly have to say, sis did not show up for the women's in this video either. She was not the most educated, eloquent little sis to have this conversation with someone who does this for sport. I believe that it is our responsibility, our meaning humans, adults, people. But since we're talking about women, I will say specifically women. He asked her the question, who's responsible for getting the help that you need to deal with your trauma? And that is absolutely us. And no one is responsible for dealing with you while you work through that trauma. You have to safeguard and position yourself in such a way that does not make people subjected to and further traumatized by your need for healing. I completely agree with that. I did not like how I don't think this particular woman had a basis for much of what she was saying. I could not follow where this was going. We went from women being emotional and not as logical. We have the whole, we've got trauma where women, like, as much as I do not generally enjoy this platform or his delivery, I can understand where this came from. This sounded crazy. And if this was the first time that you're looking at this, if you're the first time you're having this conversation, you're going to go, girl, what? Like, what? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I can say that. And yes, Mike, he took full advantage of the naivete of the 24-year-old young one on the other line, because that conversation could have and should have gone a completely different way with a more experienced person. Not meaning a person who's more petty or more experienced in the spat, but more experienced in life that could have a more in-depth conversation about some of these issues of why Black men and Black women do not relate together better.
Yeah.
That is the shtick of Oh Boy.
Yep. So I agree with you. It is no one, and I agree with him. Mm-hmm. It is no one's responsibility but your own. However, given this, first of all, given the state of Black America, I am, given the state of where relations between Black men and Black women are, given the state that we know that we are already, as I said earlier, kind of just waiting to shoot the gun at each other. Should we? Now, let me say this. How is it? I'm going to say it like this. How is it that when it comes to religion, when it comes to every other area, Black Americans now all of a sudden want to be like our ancestors? We want to worship the way our ancestors work. We want worship. We want to, all of that stuff in every other area. But when it comes to the tribal mentality that our ancestors had, where we looked out for one another, where we protected one another, where we got in, where we understood that everybody is valuable in our tribe. Now all of a sudden, your healing ain't got nothing to do with me. That's on you. That's not for me to have to deal with. But every other area in our culture, we got to go back to where we came from. And I'm saying that we have to, because of where we are, we have to stop allowing things to push us further away and start saying, I am empathetic to I might not get it. I've said this before. This whole not wanting to smile thing makes absolutely very little sense to me as a man. Mm-hmm. But because you as a woman told me that is something that you don't like to be said to you, and you've explained it to me, and because I don't feel it, I don't get it. Okay, mm-hmm. But guess what? I'm not going to actually do it no more, mm-hmm. because I care enough about you, and I'm empathetic to the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis, to not want to add anything to you, to your day, to your plight, to your existence. I need you to flourish. So hell, if me saying not smile, not stop saying smile is the least that's the least I can do. So I think, yes, you do have to take the lead role in your healing. But I think that as a community, we have to say, but I'm going to support it by being empathetic, by being respectful, by treating you honorably, by giving you the space and the grace to, to have a moment, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and say, okay, now you got that out. We good. Let's go. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go take a nap. Whatever we need to do. Yeah. But you're in our tribe. Yeah. So I'm going to let you go. I think that's my bigger issue, is to just say, we ain't going to deal with you. We don't need each other. Why should we have to, from her end, why should we have to deal with Black men? We're more educated. You know what I mean? Like, to me, all of that just seems so counter what we need. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. You are right that it is counter to what we say our end goal is. I think you and I have talked about this offline. I might have mentioned this online, but I think we are in a space as a country, as people, as humanity, or as whatever, where things are shifting. So everything is kind of in a chaotic space right now, where it's the most extreme it could be, where it feels the most extreme that it could possibly be. So like when we talk about, I want to touch on what you said about as far as the ancestors are concerned. Yeah, we do want to touch those things because it's different than what we've experienced mm-hmm. before. We have not had an opportunity to experience that type of spirituality because we've only been shown mm-hmm. XYZ things. Mm-hmm. When it comes to relationships and our community, whether or not we had the platform to tell everyone this is what we were doing, we were dealing, doing, living, accepting, bringing everyone in, even though we didn't want to say that's what we were doing. Now that the community is evolving, people are getting access to different things, people are leveling up, moving out of spaces that they've been trying to get out of all these times. And they have been forcing and fighting and pushing and praying and dragging and bringing everybody along and say, hey, y'all, it's something different. This is what me and Tavia were talking about, even on the post earlier today where we were bringing down, when we were talking about just the empathy, saying, hey, if you really rock with me like you say you do, I don't need you to know it, like I've been here, done that, bought the t-shirt. I need you to know me well enough in the strength of what I'm telling you, that this thing hurts, this thing doesn't fit, this thing doesn't work anymore, that on that alone you move different. But there is a segment of us that just flat out gonna dig the heels in, refuse to move no matter what you say. Those folks can't go. So in a way, can't go right now. That's not saying you are forever gone. We ain't never gonna hug you. You ain't gonna, we ain't gonna lick the boo-boo when you finally get it together. You know, we ain't gonna come on, baby. Okay, you got it. You ready now? Okay, come on in. You know, but we can't stop the progress.
Absolutely.
Because the folks who are happy in the mess want to stay there. So like, I think that is the difference and why it feels so hard and abrupt, because now there's a platform for folks to say, and this is why I hate little sis doesn't have the experience to really say that, because she spat it off. She done read a couple posts and felt like she had enough, information to be able to go toe to toe with homeboy on it, and that was not it. It's not a matter of we have more money, we have more knowledge, so now all of a sudden you're no longer good enough. It's the fact that I recognized, I meaning whoever is taking the steps to get the new thing, I recognized I needed more, because this thing no longer served me, us, we. It's time to do something different. Yes. I'm not going to sit here and wait on you any longer, because this information was here available. I tried to teach you. I waited for you. I don't have that time anymore, because this thing is changing still, and I've missed it up until this point. Yeah, I can't even bring you back. I can't catch you up if I wait on you much longer. Like, I don't think that that's what we really get. The way that things are moving so fast, there won't be anyone left to catch everyone up if we all wait on the folks who just chilling and they happy because this is the devil that I know.
Absolutely.
So, that it's new. Everything is a new thing. So it's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. And it feels like we being left behind. We being whoever's not ready. You might not be ready. Get ready. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, at this point, I don't know what else to say to those people. Whether you be black, brown, male, female, get the F ready. Yeah. It's time. Like, I don't know what else to tell.
Which is where I think his whole argument about your grandmothers, I'm like,
Nana wasn't happy. Like, out of 50 nanas, 5 was happy. Like, why are we acting like Mima was just the epitome and the ideal of what it was to be life? Like, that is not life.
That was not.
And you know it.
Like, there was no flourishing for Mima. Was not flourishing.
She's not flourishing. She's not living her best life.
She appreciated she appreciated what she was doing in terms of, she appreciated her family, that family aspect of it, in terms of keeping her family together. Absolutely. But my response is, if she was happy, why did she teach her daughter to go get a job?
Told her the exact opposite of whatever she did to get where she was at.
Don't do what I'm doing.
Yes.
Go and live your life. You got a dream, go get it. So it's like, we can't use that as a legitimate excuse. We have or reason, when the reality was, A, she wasn't happy, and B, more so whether she was happy or not. Because some of them were happy in terms of happy that my family is still together, happy that I raised my children, happy that, but there was a sense of not flourishing in other aspects of my life, that I'm not being able to go after, that I'm stuck in a position of being a domestic partner when I have an entrepreneurial skill, or I have, some other things some other things that I want to do, but I just gotta wait because you know what, right now this is where we are. So we can't look at that as a legitimate excuse or reason or rationale to say, but she sacrificed and stuck it out with the black man, which is great. I'm not suggesting she shouldn't, and I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't now. I'm just saying, but we can't use that. We need to be honest and say, how can we get to a space where men and women, black men and black women, can flourish, can work together, so that the gifts, the greatest of gifts in us, all of us, can be used. How do we do that in a family? How do we do that? How do we do that in friendships? How do we do that where now you're not subjugated to a specific thing, but whatever you're good at, do that.
Yep.
and do it to the best of your ability, and do that and make a whole bunch of money doing it, and do you know what I mean? Do that and be happy because
Wake
when
up every day, we're to do it. Yep.
like, that's the end goal. That's the goal.
Yeah. I don't that rubbed me. That was, I think, the thing that bothered me the most out of this video was the comparison that he made to your nanas and them, or your grandma had less resources and more trauma and she did better with it. I thought, this is what we're saying in the year of our Lord 2021. This is what we're saying. We throwing back to the nana who had more trauma, less resources, and stayed. Oh, okay. All right. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to me that these are the things that we are telling those who we consider our peers, because women, we have our own ways of reworking these things, and like where we tell men they should work no matter what, and you shouldn't matter when you get it and how much you spend, and it's just that's what you do. That's provision. No, sis, that's not provision.
Yeah, no,
that's not provision. That's using someone. There's a certain level, there's a threshold to that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
just gonna say it. You know what I mean? There's a difference. So to set that up that way and to have the platform that he has, I think Chan broke it down very well as far as the frustration with this entire, when we hear his name and we be like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? It's to know that we have the issue that we have within our communities, to know that we have the trauma that we have within our communities, to know that we have this discord that is being sown day in and day out via the internet, via the news, via our music, our programming, our experiences, the wealth versus poorness that we spoke about earlier, all of these things. And to have the platform that these people have and to play on these weaknesses as opposed to position it in a way that we could actually do better, but then say that you're here to do better is the problem. Yeah. That's where we all have to do better.
I'm gonna say this.
Because in the truth and all this truth, it got muddy trying to do the extra.
I think his role. I told you he's the anti Derrick Jackson. That's what he is. Yeah. It's like I get there's definitely a space for men. That men, because we know with the Derrick Jackson phenomenon, he don't never speak, very rarely. I mean, I say it, very rarely speaks well of men. Mm-hmm. This dude very rarely speaks well of women. So it's like you're just trying to, and I get it, because I'm not suggesting that in either case that what they're saying is lying, but they're saying a small portion of what needs to be said, and in a way that is so divisive that it's not bringing us closer together. It's literally putting us in a position where we're just more at odds with each other.
Yeah. It speaks to our trauma. And until we identify that we actually have been traumatized, and I know that word has been overused, so to speak, but when we go through these experiences, they are little bitty pieces of trauma. We're not going to be dramatic about it, but those are traumatic experiences. They have altered our state in some type of way. Does not mean we don't bounce back, doesn't mean we don't recover, we don't heal from those things, but we have to acknowledge that they happen. If we don't ever acknowledge that this experience has adjusted, altered, changed the way that I look at a thing, we're not going to clearly go into anything else. The fact that we refuse to acknowledge our ish is how the Kevin Samuels, the Derrick Jacksons, the whoever other people that are on the soapboxes that are speaking to the traumas and all over the world. That's how these people get life.
Listen,
you know what I mean? So like we can stop it.
And then y'all got Dr. Umar out here sounding like he know what he talking about.
Right. Like when we started, like 2 weeks ago, we were like, yo, he said, yo, you're right. You know what I mean? But it was because
Umar? Woo.
Who we never agree with. Woo. Like, when was the last time? It's been a year plus since we were like, yup, he said that. Like,
I'm agreeing with Umar now. What's going on?
He ain't said nothing. But now we like, yup.
Like, you
So like
making
everybody
fun.
has to take a step back and look, how
You making
grounded am I really?
Woo.
Like, how grounded are we really? That
Yeah.
as soon as a clickbait comes, as soon as the next big thing comes, like we're like, oh, and that.
He
That's
said what men, he meant what men want to say. Men can speak very well.
All the time.
Men,
We know it.
women can speak very well. Anyway,
All the time.
buy my book. Anyway, buy my book. Look, while we on
Let
the
Win speak for you. You need a man to speak for you. Let Win speak
while we
for
on the subject, go ahead and buy my book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I worked on my
Slide that in.
transitions. That was a try. Buy my book. It's in pre-order.
See what you did there. That was right out of the book.
Go ahead.
Chef's kiss, bro. I see what you did there.
Oh my!
You want to follow somebody? You want somebody to say something? I got you. I say a lot of stuff.
Surviving relationship storms is the name of the book. Oh god! Oh, phew. Oh my god, that's so funny. Whew. All right. Final comments. Whew.
Oh, that was good. Final comments are, it's final comments. Y'all, be good to each other. I really think this conversation coupled with Jamaica's conversation, we really have to take a step outside of our boxes to educate ourselves a little bit more about the other side. Empathy is not a bad word. It's okay to, even for a moment, imagine that, feel the other side. You know what I mean? It doesn't put you back in the old place. It doesn't mean that you're not still awesome or that you aren't the best at whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't take any of your success away. But to step back into a space to understand the people that you are trying to engage with can go so much further for your overall interactions. And I think we are at the point where we should all be a little more willing to push us along. And being fully transparent about the fact of you not being one of those people, be big enough to move out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody is going to force you to do the thing that you don't want to do. That is your personal right to say, you know what? I don't want to. But to consistently put yourself in a space that blocks progress, that blocks growth, understanding, collaboration, rekindling, understand. You know what I mean? Like, if you are constantly, if you find yourself in that space, I really, really challenge you to take a step back and wonder, and and ask yourself, is this really the place I want to be? You know what I mean? I can be fine over here solo and quiet, but do I have to keep interjecting myself in the place of progress? Because that is kind of what has happened throughout history. We've allowed ourselves to be played and pawned, and you know what I mean. We've been putting ourselves in position, put in positions that have not furthered anything, but we're all bearing the brunt of these actions. So I like, even if it just takes these next few days, take some time to think in your world, in your circle, what can you do to either progress or move out of the way so that progress can happen for those around you? Because we're all benefiting or being taken away from. I'm missing my words because that's not Pepsi in that cup tonight. But we are all being affected by the choices that we're all making. So in the next few days, I think it's important if we just really take a look and see what our actions are doing for the collective. Yeah.
That's good. Yep. Yep. I really don't have any final thoughts, to be honest. I mean, let me go ahead and. So we missed a couple of ads. So of course, you guys know Hot Topics are brought to you by Bob Shamrock, which is owned by our favorite Kells. So 2901 Northwest 10th Street. Go pull up your gas tank and fill up your stomachs with the food as well as the gas that they have. So 2901 Northwest 10th Street in Oklahoma City. Go and holler at them ASAPly. Also, advertise with us. Now you've got all kinds of packages that you can invest in that will help your business get seen by people all over the world. So I think we set another show record last week, actually. Last time I looked, we were like at 10,000 views. So like we doing close to 10,000 a week every week. So hey, y'all need to be advertising with us. Shanae, you can blow up our comments every week, any day,
anytime.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. And last but definitely not least, y'all, I am doing a 30-day intense money boot camp. So you guys go to the Facebook group, the Facebook page.
It's intense, y'all. Wait, pause. Did y'all catch that wordplay?
It's
intense training.
Absolutely. It's not gonna be your mama's training. You get 30 days worth of work every day.
Not your mama's money. This ain't your mama's money. This ain't your mama's money.
This ain't your mama's. So
you put this cup down.
So you need to make sure that you are in this training. It's 30 days, and at the end of the 30 days, you will be ready to build generational wealth. You'll be clear. You will have gone through every aspect of your money, and you'll also get weekly live coaching sessions, one live coaching session and one live Q&A session every week for 30 days, for a month. $99. Join today. So that's all I have this week. Of course, thank you, Q. I appreciate you for everything. Thank you, of course, Jamaica. Wonderful segment. A wonderful segment, wonderful discussion. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Mike, Shanae, y'all was in these comments. And
I held us down tonight.
Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
So who else commented? I saw Eric in here earlier. Yeah, so thank y'all for your comments tonight. If you watch the replay, listen, comment in the replay. You guys can comment on the replay post. We want you to do that so we can continue to engage and with these topics. So
we comment back, even in the replays. We will have a whole conversation after the show. Like,
absolutely,
you have not missed your opportunity to chat with the people.
So other than that, why my music acting weird? Hold on, where we at? There we go.
If this is goodbye. Yeah, I have not learned all the words to this song out of like 99 years of singing this damn song.
It's only been 6 years. It's only 6 years.
I'm on beat though. I can background dance it out. Okay, I know all the spots.
Listen, I forget my own words sometimes, so it's all right. So it's all good. Wait, did you see I get called out last week?
About what?
So after I posted the graduation stuff, my college choir director was like, "Okay, now you can just start on your music album." I was like,
as if you need one more thing to do. One more thing.
All I need is one more thing to do. And I bet you I do it.
I can do another Winford album. I can do a Burns album. I can do it.
I can fit it in there somewhere.
I can pre-order. Get in the booth. I can pre-order. I think I can do that. I can find the time to do that. Would y'all pre-order? Y'all think y'all would pre-order Burns the Burns renewal? Listen, We'll have it crowdsourced by the Myrna. Don't play. Don't play. Don't play. We'll have birds in the booth. Panda in the booth.
I got 3. And I got people. The next book. When you write, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, y'all.
Uh-huh.
Amen. Finish this one. All right, y'all. Y'all good night. Have a good night. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Good night.